Good morning. Thank you very much for joining our Shiur today. And thank you again to Raya for making this possible. Today we're going to be discussing a topic that is related to the day of Tu B'Av. The 15th day of Av is a special day. It's called the Shidduch Day. It's the day where Talmud describes what happened in Jerusalem in those days and in all of Israel in those days, where the girls used to go out. They used to dress up all in white, and they used to go out, and there was a gathering together where the boys chose shidduchim for themselves, and the topic was Al titeh neinecha ba yofi, but which means don't look only at the outside. You must also attend to the inner side, to the pnimiyut, which means to the yirat shamayim, to the quality, and so on and so on. And that was the way that they used to do shidduchim in those days. And so today we're going to be discussing a bit about shidduchim, a bit about marriage, to see what's the ultimate shidduch. How does Judaism look at the whole concept of getting married, of marriage, of love between each other? And we found actually an interesting idea in the Torah. There's this, out of our forefathers, we hear the story of two of them, of Yitzchak and of Yaakov. We hear the story of them getting married. And it's an interesting story because with Yitzchak, so Abraham's servant, traveled to bring Rivka, Yitzchak's wife. And as she enters Yitzchak's city, she meets Yitzchak, and it says, the pasuk says, right after they meet, which means that Yitzchak brought her into his house. And from there we see that the shidduch was quick, which means from the minute they met, they already decided to get married, and they actually got married. So there was no time time where they waited until they were prepared or until they were ready. And the same we see with Yaakov. Yaakov travels. This time he's the one that's doing the traveling. He goes to Lavan, and he basically sees there Rachel, and he decides that he wants to marry her, that she's a suitable wife. And immediately he says, I'm prepared to work 7 years, but we're not going to delay the marriage till after 7 years. What we're going to do is we're going to marry now. And it's very interesting because our logic says that in order to marry someone, we need to wait. We need to take the time. We need to see that she's really suitable, that we can compare, or that he's suitable, that we can really see the qualities of the person, and that we can really relate to that person. But in the Torah, we see that it was very instant. It was immediate. And it's interesting to understand why. How come it is in that way according to Judaism? And as we see today in the way it works in the Frum community, is that really it's a shidduch, which means the bocher and the girl, they go out on a few meetings, and once they decided that it's something that's suitable, so they close the shidduch, and it's a mazel tov, and they wait 2, 3, 4 months, and they get married. And just to mention that it's proven to be a very good success. Unfortunately, the rate of divorces around the world is terrible. Many people, first of all, they get married very late. And second of all, the amount of people that get divorced is a big, significant amount. And this shows that something's not working in that system. But on the other hand, in the Frum system, we see that the numbers are really low, significantly low. The rate of divorce is not high. And it's something that's normal, that's average, that out of several couples, well, son just won't work out. The question is, so what is the ultimate way to actually decide on a shidduch? And what is the whole idea of marriage? Before we talk about that, I just want to mention a quick story about there was the king of animals, the lion, decided to get married. And he did a whole party. He did a whole ceremony and everything. And all the animals gathered around to give him a few blessings, a few wishes, to congratulate him. And they all told him, well, my brother, congratulations on for your marriage. And he was listening to that. He didn't like the phrase brother. After all, he thought that he was the king of animals. So, but he was, it's his day of marriage. He's getting married. He's not going to do a fuss about it. But when the mouse came over and told him, well, my brother, congratulations, he just got furious. He said, why are you calling me my brother? I'm not your brother, I'm your king. So the mouse turned to him and told him, listen, once you are married, you are no king anymore. So that's like kind of a story that shows that marriage has a certain downside. It's not a downside, but it's just for the joke. There's a certain special bond that changes people. And today we are in a time where people like to be individual. They like to feel kings. They don't like to give up their place and their position and to commit to someone else and to put aside their career for a certain amount of time. And that's one of the causes that people actually get married later on, while their career is established and they're in their 30s and they really already know what they are doing and they have a good position and they feel that it's not coming and taking away from their own personality and their own career. And that's basically being a king. And when you get married in a certain way, you're not anymore the king. You can't decide everything yourself, and you have to be flexible, reasonable, and committed. So actually it's interesting because, again, as we mentioned before, Yitzchak and Yaakov, two of our forefathers, their shidduch was very instant, which means the minute right after they met their wives, they decided to marry them, and this shidduch was an amazing shidduch. The reason to that is the key, the Rebbe says, is that we don't find love. We create love. Which means it's not like out of the blue we are supposed to find love or love at first sight or some miraculous thing will happen and everything will just fit in place and your dream will come true. With this approach, you're going to be waiting till you're 30, 35. Things are not going to move so fast because there's always, nothing really fits our dreams. There's always higher expectations and this thing is not 100%, that thing is not 100%. And the idea of creating love means that you see a potential. You have to see that there's a potential. You have to see, as Chassidus says, and the Rebbe says in a lot of letters to people that ask him about shidduchim, the Rebbe tells them that it's important that there'll be a metziat chen, which means to find some chen in the other person, that you like him. But you can't find love. The love has to be created. You can create love. And this is something that will take time. But there is no idea, there's nothing to hold back, which means you can't say, well, I want to test it, I want to see how it goes. Many psychologists today, I was reading about it, and they say that it's this idea of couples that, let's say, they are going out, and then they decide that before the marriage, they want to live together in the same house, but they don't want to marry yet. This is a terrible thing, that's what they say. Because what it does is it means you're not committed. You just want to test to see how life is, but you're not really prepared to commit and to create the love. You want to see if you might find the love in the house while you're walking around. And this is something that doesn't end up well because, again, no one is perfect. Nothing is perfect. And there's a lot of work to do in order to find this love. We've basically got to create it. So that's why our forefathers, the way that it's described that they did their shidduch in a way that was very instant, which means immediately once they saw that there's a suitable shidduch for them, and this is something that they could work for, so they both decided to do it. And it's even hinted in the shidduch of Yaakov. We know Yaakov convinced his father-in-law that he's worthy to marry his daughters by saying, I will work 7 years for you. What is the idea of working 7 years? The idea of working 7 years is that this love, this relationship, is something that always needs work. It always needs an effort. There's nothing perfect, and we'll find love by creating love. So that's a bit about the whole idea of shidduchim. Now about marriage, is that there's another interesting thing, because many people today say, why do we need marriage at all? Why do we need to marry someone else? In the olden days, so if we were to go through history, we'd find that it was very important, especially for a woman, to marry someone, because the life wasn't easy. Literally, life wasn't easy. You needed to have someone to hunt. You needed to have someone to protect. You needed to have someone to take care of children. So there was benefits for each side, and each side could clearly see why it was important to marry. But today the world's developed, and today there's no need for hunting. All you got to do is go down to the store and you'll get yourself whatever you need. And today, even having children, there are certain ways that people don't need to get married to have children. So what is the reason that we really need to get married? If you want to convince someone else, listen, it's time for you to get married. So the truth is that Hasidus says that marriage is connecting two old friends back together. We all know the story of Adam and Eve. Adam was basically one person and was divided in two. Adam and Eve started as one big individual, one person. And Hashem did this, we can call it this, what was it called? He did this nituach, which is basically separated these two individuals and created Adam as a man and Eve as a woman. And since then, in a man and a woman's nature, there is such a habit to find their lost old friend, which means a man is always looking to be completed. He feels that he's lacking something. And the same thing is with the woman. She feels incomplete without having Adam with her together. So the idea of marriage is to bring together, to unite once again the full personality of a person. Because the full personality of a person isn't just himself, his own individual existence, but it is also to connect him with someone else, her with someone else. And this is the real idea of marriage. Marriage is connecting two different individuals in a way that causes them to be complete. And many couples can say, especially when marriage actually goes through several years, they can say that they feel much more complete. That's the expression, that they have a certain feeling of shlemut. And the idea of shlemut is actually because each and every one completes each other. This is related to our souls also. It's not only something external, our bodies, that they were separated and now that they come together, but it's connected to the pnimiyut. It's connected to the inside, to our neshamot, to our souls. And as we know, Hashem, 40 days before the newborn is created, Hashem says who he is going to marry, which shows us that this whole idea of marriage is connecting two souls together, two neshamot together. And we know that also there's the two different souls have two different missions in the world. And when they have two different missions in the world, they have to come together in order to complete each other's work. And we also say that Hashem and Am Yisrael are those two same souls. Hashem is one soul, and Am Yisrael is another soul. And we come together by doing Hashem's mitzvot, and in Bet HaMikdash, hopefully soon, we'll be able to see it with our eyes, with the third Bet HaMikdash in our days, hopefully. So thank you again very much for attending our shiur today. Today we discussed shortly the idea of shidduchim, what's the best recipe for shidduchim, and the idea is to create the love, not to find it. And that's why we don't have to take time. We can do it instantly. Of course, it's very important to see that it's suitable and that you have a good partner that you could work together with in order to create this love. And we also spoke about the true meaning of marriage. Marriage is connecting, completing two different individuals into one special soul. Thank you very much for attending this shiur. And thank you again to Raya and also to Mordechai Meltz, who are making this possible. Hopefully we'll see you again next week. Just a short reminder, we have every single day shiurim at 9:30. Sometimes Rabbi Goldberg gives the shiur, sometimes I give the shiur. And our weekly classes are Wednesday nights in Hebrew, a Parsha shiur, and Tuesday nights, a special series of shiurim by Rabbi Goldberg, Seriously Happy. Thank you very much and have a great day.